calling Central, please hang up and dial 911. If you need to reach the provider on call, please hang up and dial 1-877-844-2858. Our physical address, normal operating business hours are Monday to Friday, 7:30 a.m. to 4 p.m. We are available to answer calls Monday through Friday from 7:30 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. and from 1:30 p.m. to 4 p.m. We have high call volume at this time, and you have either reached us outside of our business hours or we are on another line. If you have a non-emergent question, please leave a detailed message and we will return your call within 1 to 2 business days. For a more prompt response, please send us a portal message through your patient portal account. You can also visit our website to...
I tried that. And it kind of wouldn't let me do it. Okay, let's do that. Well, I guess I did that before. Is that the mailman? Oh no, it's a Corvette. Portal access. Supportive pregnancy care. I don't know what that means. How did I do this before? Portal access, home, services. I don't know what that means. Let's just go with regular pregnancy. Okay. I'm recording! Let's do this. Because I'm always rigging something up. See if that works. You can see me, right? Alright. What was that? January 5th. Let's turn that down. It's January 5th, Friday, and I have not had the energy, willpower, interest, courage, words to update. At least not very well. So I really don't know where you were all left off, but I don't even know where to begin. This is why you should document every day rather than having to recant the last week or so. Let me pull up my calendar to help me. January 5th. Okay. I'm just going to do a crash course, and I want to explain my attitude, demeanor right now. Make no mistake, I've started kind of grieving, if you will. I've had one major meltdown already early on, and I've cried a little bit here and there. I cried a little bit yesterday, which made me feel better. I'm not sure if it was enough. Considering everything that's going on right now, I don't know if I've gotten it all out, to be honest, but grieving is such a weird and disgusting thing to have to deal with. heartbreak is part of grieving. Like just all of that, right? Is just weird, and it's different from person to person. It's different from situation to situation in the same person. So I'm just kind of like giving myself a break at this point because, yeah, even though I've had a miscarriage before or pregnancy loss before, it wasn't this far into it. So it feels like I don't know what the hell I'm doing. But yeah, I basically cat's out the bag at the beginning of the video before I even explain like what happened. But I am in this weird, very dangerous limbo at the same time. So let me just kind of go back and explain. Oh, that's actually really good. What is that? Passion fruit and mango? Oh, yes. Thank God for tea. Oh. Whew. I don't know what these stains are on my clothes that keep happening. That wasn't there earlier, like as in a few minutes ago. So what is that? I'm not wearing makeup. This happened to me yesterday too. There's nothing on my desk. I just cleaned my desk. I just cleaned everything. Girl, anyways. So let's go back. I'm looking at my calendar right now. Like I said many times before, it is Friday, January 5th. We are in 2024. Let's go back to Christmas, right? So Christmas time was my 6th week. Yeah. Christmas time I was 8 weeks. I probably mentioned this, but it was kind of like a really chaotic time in the sense of like my family was kind of scattered everywhere. My dad was in the hospital. He was there throughout Christmas Eve and Christmas and like a few days after that. And my mom was still working, and she was going between work, the hospital, and home, so it was kind of hard to catch her. Plus, with her work, she got really busy too, so I really didn't keep up with her too much. We were both really busy. Like holidays and work, you're just trying to get your shit done and make it out of there alive. That way you can have a nice break. So that's what both of us were doing. And then Christmas was also held at my parents' house. So I know that my mom had a lot going on. And it just so happened to be like the day after Christmas was going to be my next weekly ultrasound. That was going to be my 8 weeks ultrasound. So I, at that point, was kind of like tired of hiding it from everybody. I mean, even though it was still really, really early, and I totally understand why you don't tell anybody until you're like well into your second trimester, if that. I understand that reasoning now, but at that point it was getting really, really hard for me to keep it to myself, and also not really good for like my spirit, because I was excited, but I was also going through some things that I just wanted to like talk to my mom about, or like talk to just somebody about. So I was like, okay, despite it being early, despite my initial couple of weeks of like doctor's visits and ultrasound, despite that like anxiety and fear that I had at those appointments, I want to tell everybody by Christmas. That way I can just be relieved of keeping the secret and blah, blah, blah. Surprise, surprise is out. It's done. But and I was going to reveal that on Christmas Day. Well, with my dad being in the hospital and him not being home, I didn't want to reveal to everybody else and him not be there. But at the same time, I didn't want to delay the announcement until like New Year's or anything like that, because this is like the last time that the whole family is together in one place for a few months. We get together for Thanksgiving, we get together for Christmas, and that's it. Like, we don't like get together for every holiday. So I was like, I really just want to be done with this. I want to tell everybody all at one time and like not do this 15 family thing. So I was like, shit, I want my parents to know first, and then after that, like, we'll go from there. So that meant I needed to go visit my dad in the hospital Christmas Eve. So I went and did that, and the intent was for me to catch my mom there visiting at the same time. But by the time I knew that she was there, and the time that I like got there, she had done her visit and was literally like, as soon as I was walking up to the hospital doors, I called her and asked her like what room they were in, and I could literally hear her in the car turning the corner. Like, I had just missed her. So by the time I got to the hospital on Christmas Eve, I had missed my mom, but my dad was there. So I was just like, screw it. I'm not doing this game anymore. I'm just gonna like let him know, and then I will go to my parents' house and meet my mom and tell her that evening and like stay the night. So I did that. I surprised my dad with the news, and he was overwhelmingly happy for me, and just like, it really truly made his Christmas. He was so happy. And it even like boosted his health a little bit and boosted his energy, and just he did really well his last days in the hospital, which I think hopefully kind of helped him to get out earlier than maybe he would have. But anyways, that's my own thinking. I don't know if it could be bullshit. So I told my dad, and then I visited with him for a while, and then I went home to my parents' house. So I went straight from the hospital all the way to my parents' house. It was probably about an hour away. And I just decided, like, and I kind of rushed. I like packed all of my stuff. I packed all of my like bags and like little gifts and everything that I would need to just stay the night, because I'm like, I just have to do this. Otherwise, me going to visit my mom that late in the day and then have to drive all the way back home and then have to drive all the way back in the morning for Christmas, it was just too much. So I was just like, put all the shit in the bag and get on the road. So I went to their house, met her there. She was surprised because I didn't tell her I was coming or anything. She was just like surprised. And so she's like still wrapping gifts or whatever, and we're chit-chatting, watching TV or whatever. And then finally I was like, okay, it's getting late. Let me give her card and announcement. So I did that, and then she looked at it and looked at me and like just put it over to the side, and that confused me a little bit, because I'm like, okay, do you like what's happening here? She put it over to the side and kept wrapping gifts. And because I didn't expect that reaction or expect for her to do that, I was just kind of like, okay, maybe she wants to finish wrapping gifts first before she like focuses on mine. I don't know. So then finally it's like 11:30 at night, and I'm like, will you open your card? And she's just like, oh, I didn't know you wanted me to open it right now. I looked at it and it said Christmas, and I'm like, it's not Christmas. I'm going to wait until Christmas Day. And I was like, no, otherwise I would just put it under the tree. I was like, no, open it now. So she opened it. She was so surprised, and that like boosted her energy. Like, she was tired, but she's just like, now I just want to stay up and talk to you. And like, she was just so excited. So that was that. And then I got some sleep, but she didn't get sleep because she was just tossing and turning, just so excited about the news. So then next day is Christmas. We wake up, and what do we do? Oh, we had tea and just kind of talked and prepared for the day. And my parents had a phone call before the festivities, and they're just like, well, did you hear the news? Did you hear the news? And just trying to like get each other's reactions and talk. And I thought that was really cool. They were both really excited and happy, and just like the happiest that I have seen them in a really long time. And so then, like, Christmas Day kicked off. We started having, my mom had friends and coworkers, and the rest of the family came over, and just went from there. We opened gifts before dinner, which we usually don't do. We usually have food first and then gifts, but for whatever reason, like, we did it different. So after all the gifts were opened, and then I, gave all of my cards to everybody, and it took them a while to understand what was going on, but my grandmother figured it out first. And she kind of exclaimed first, and then everybody else kind of realized what was going on. And then, there's like big cheer. Everybody's like really happy for me and like wanting to ask questions and this and that. All the while, like, I'm not feeling the best. I'm not feeling bad, but I'm just having like really weird, like, I have a really weird feeling. And it could be pregnant. I thought that it was like pregnancy, but it also could have been just like anxiety or like nerves to like tell everybody what was going on. But I was hot, short of breath. My stomach was just a little bit tight, but nothing crazy. Maybe a little lightheaded. But again, these are all kind of like symptoms of like anxiety too, right? So, I remember feeling all that and just really hot and thirsty and just like, ugh, let's get this over with. And just kind of weak feeling. So we got that over with. Everybody was happy. Then we went and ate food, and I definitely ate more than I did for Thanksgiving. I can tell you that. Like, I had a full plate and then some. And okay, so since then, of course, like when you eat or like when you drink a lot, you kind of have like a tight, full belly or whatever. So I had that, and I kept pulling at my clothes the rest of the day and night. Like, it was just really uncomfortable. That's like, it was just really tight. And that lasted well into the evening, to the point where, like, I stayed a second night at my mom's house just because my appointment was the next day, and it just made more sense to leave to California from there than to go all the way back home. So I stayed a second night. And that night, I didn't get very good sleep. I tossed and turned because I wasn't feeling good. My lower stomach was just like tight, and it just felt weird. And I just figured, oh, okay, well, we're having another growth spurt or something is happening. And so didn't feel the best there, but I got as much sleep as I could. Was really tired and just like not into it the next day. I hate the drive, or like the time leading up to the drive, and just getting my mind right. Got on the road. Nothing else weird happened. I didn't have any vertigo. There was a teeny tiny bit of like motion sickness, but it didn't last all the way through. I was just mostly tired more than anything. I think maybe my back was hurting, like on the sides, lower back. Was a bit sore, but other than that, and then I haven't really talked about this at all, but the constipation has been more than real. That has been more of an issue for me than nausea, honestly. I haven't really had any nausea this entire time, just a bit of motion sickness, but not nausea. My problem has been the lack of flow and constipation, which has caused other problems, unfortunately, and problems that are still going on and that are kind of like increasingly uncomfortable, somewhat painful. Hopefully you get that, because I'm not in the mood to like TMI you too much. So other than that, like, not too much was going on. I get to my appointment, again, this is the day after Christmas. I get to my appointment for my 8-week ultrasound. By this time, it's my 3rd ultrasound that I've had. And the same person that had been doing my ultrasounds for the other times, she was there, and it took her a while, and she was even quieter than the first time. where she basically did my scan and had trouble finding, or no, she had trouble. Well, it wasn't trouble. She was clearly measuring multiple times, the same thing, and trying to get different angles and measuring. And she's just like, it looks like you're still measuring at 6 weeks. And I was just like, okay. Again, I don't know what that means. I don't know. I mean, because all the research that I had done saying that, you can be off 2 to 3 weeks, but what nobody is really specifying is that offness doesn't really happen or exist in the first trimester. Like later on, it could, but the first trimester is pretty spot on. So I was just like, okay, I don't know what that means. And that's all that she said. She kept measuring, and then she's just like, I'm going to go and get the doctor. So I know when she says, I'm going to go and get the doctor, that means bad news. So she's just like, stay right here. I'm going to go get him. And mind you, I'm spread eagle on the table, and she leaves, and I swear to you, they were gone. She was gone for so long, to the point where I almost got up, put my clothes on, and like went outside to find out what the hell was going on, because it took so long. So finally, she came back with the doctor, and he's like, how are you? And I was like, I'm freaking out, to be honest. And he's just like, yeah, I'm sorry. So then he's watching her, do the measurements again, etc. And he goes, how many weeks is she? And she goes, she's supposed to be 8 weeks. And he's just like, oh, 8 weeks. Oh. They keep measuring, silence. And then I asked her, I was like, well, is there a heartbeat? And she's just like, oh. So she goes over to the Doppler to like start taking a heartbeat. And that like little wavy sand thing popped up on the screen. And she left it there for like 5 seconds. And like I wasn't really able to see anything before she jumped out of that screen back to like the regular ultrasound, because the doctor was standing right in front of like my line of sight to the screen. So I couldn't see if there were any numbers or like anything. And she didn't say yes or no. When I asked, I said, is there a heartbeat? She just moved over to the Doppler as if she was going to like check for one, but she didn't answer me yes or no, and I couldn't see the screen. So I did not get a definitive answer on that. So then the doctor, after a while, was just like, it looks like the pregnancy stopped, or the embryo stopped growing at 6 weeks, probably at your last scan here with us. And he's just like, because it's 2 weeks out, it's basically not looking good. He's like, you can either like stop taking your medication right away and, prepare for the tissue to pass, or you can keep taking meds for 1 more week and come back and check and we can see. He's like, I would be okay with that too. And I was just like, what the fuck even just happened? So like I couldn't keep my shit together, and I was just like, well, like do I have to make a decision right now, because they're just like standing around watching? And he's like, no, you don't, just let us know later. And he's just like, oh, I'm so sorry, and left the room. And then so the ultrasound person was still there, and she kept saying how sorry she was, and she wanted to give me a hug, and I couldn't breathe, let alone like move. So I kind of got up, and she hugged me, and I lost it. She's like, take as much time as you need, and just whatever, like whatever people say. I don't even remember, to be honest. And then so I just I pulled, thank God for hoodies, right? I pulled my hoodie over my head, and I just like walked out of there so quick. I didn't want to see anybody. I didn't want to talk to anybody. I just left out of there so fast. And then once I got outside the building, I called my mom, because I just didn't know what else the fuck to do. Because walking into the appointment, my mom and my aunt, they were like, well, we want to see pictures, we want to see video, etc. And I was like, oh, okay. And so coming out, they're expecting one thing, and I'm expecting one thing, and it's totally a different shit show. So I just called my mom, and I couldn't even get words out. I just like I broke down. I lost it in the parking lot. I could barely like walk the rest of the way to my car. I just, it was like one of those Hollywood scenes where like the person's like legs give out from under them and like my knees buckled and I just, the strength left my body. I just could not understand how one day I could be just fine and the next day like it's like over, right? So I just cried to my mom and I feel so bad because she's in the middle of her workday at her desk and I'm in a whole other state losing my shit and there isn't anything any of us can do. So I just went back to my car and I sat there and I cried and said a bunch of shit out loud and I was there for a minute. Like I couldn't drive because like my whole body was tingling. So I couldn't get back on the road yet. But you know, once I finally did, I got on the road. I felt like shit, you know, anytime you cry like that hard, like your head wants to explode, like your whole body is just freaking out. So I get back on the road to come home and then my mom calls me back and was just like, why don't you just stay the night and instead of driving? And I was just like, I just want to be at home. I don't want to prolong this long ass drive. It's after the holidays. Traffic is going to suck. And it did. I just want to hurry up and be at home. I don't want to spend the extra money on a room. I have to go to work the next day. Like, it was just so much. So, I continued to drive home. Traffic sucked. It took me forever. I didn't get home till about, I don't know, it was like 8:30, 9 o'clock at night. Or, yeah, it was like 9. And of course it's like raining and I had to park in Timbuktu because I got home so late. There was no available parking. So I'm bringing up all of my stuff from Christmas and just like everything. And I'm walking from the back of my building up to the elevators and my neighbor who had just given me a Christmas gift and we caught up a little bit. She was at the elevators too and I was just like, oh my God. Like, you know how you just don't want to run into anybody, let alone someone that you know? So we ran into each other at the elevator, took the elevator together, and she could just see how awful I looked. Like, I had been crying for 6 hours straight with my hood on and it's cold and I look like shit because I feel it. And she's just like, oh, how are you? Did you have to work? And I was like, no, I didn't work. I was just like, no, I didn't work. I just got back from Cali. I have a doctor in California that I have to see. And so, you know, I do turnaround trips there. I had an appointment today. And I was like, today was kind of like the worst day ever. And I didn't want to go into details, right? And she was just like, oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Well, at least you're home now and you can like rest. And I was like, yeah, that's like, I'm just so tired. And it was just really awkward because she's so sweet and nice and I don't know, like a positive person. So here comes this like dark cloud coming up to the elevators and I don't know. It was just weird and awkward. And I'm usually okay with awkward, but sometimes I just don't want to deal with it. And so I actually missed my floor because she lives on the floor above me. And she's just like, well, after you. And I was just like, actually, I think I missed it. And she's just like, oh my gosh, that's my fault. I'm so sorry. Have a good night. So she left and I had to go back down to my floor, which wasn't a big deal. It was just kind of funny in that moment where I'm realizing too, I was just like, actually, I don't live on this floor, you do. So I get home, I drop all my stuff at the door, I get in the shower, and then I get in the bed, I think. I'm pretty sure I didn't eat anything. I get in the bed, and I have to get as much sleep as possible because I do have to work the next day. And so I did. I worked the next day, the next 3 days, and then, no, the next 2 days. And then I was off that Friday before New Year's weekend. And so I was off that Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday was a holiday, and I had Tuesday off too. So I had a nice time, just like, I basically barricaded myself indoors. I stayed inside the entire weekend to the point where I was borderline getting stir crazy, but I really needed the rest. I slept so much that it was almost too much, but that felt good. I stayed inside. I was able to see fireworks. Yeah, I just rested, and I just kind of hid away from everybody. And I cried a little bit off and on, and I went down small rabbit holes. To be honest, I was afraid to Google anything having to do with miscarriage because I didn't want to make it real, or I didn't want to put any bad energy or mojo out into the universe because I'm looking up miscarriage, then I must want one, that kind of weird shit. I just didn't want to. So I went down rabbit holes in a roundabout way. I don't know, like my symptoms, because I'm still taking the estrogen and progesterone, like it holds everything in place. Even though I saw another doctor a few days after that told me that my body was going to do whatever it was going to do when the medicine wasn't going to do anything. That's incorrect. So let me just go back. So after that appointment, after I got home, I had to go to work the next day and just like sucked it up. And that next day, I just kicked into gear like I normally do when I'm panicking, when I'm in a corner, when like it's the last, like down to the wire. I just like something opens in my brain where I just figure shit out. And so I decided to see another doctor here in Arizona, not the one that I went to at my 7-week appointment, screw them, but just like a totally different one. And she was actually on my list of like possibilities for to be like my OB like throughout the time, since I couldn't get my original one. That wasn't necessarily possible. Then there was another couple of people on my list, and she turned out to be one of them. So I just called and I was like, whenever you can get me an appointment, that would be great. And she was booked up. New doctor here in Arizona. Oh, so her assistant called me back and was just like, I know it's short notice, but can you come tomorrow at 8:30 in the morning? We had a cancellation. And I was like, hell yeah, I'll be there. So that like made me super happy. And she's just like, thank you for putting all the information in there. People usually don't do that. We have an idea of like what's going on, blah, blah, blah. So I was just like, bet. She gave me instructions on how to get there. So that was, so Monday was a holiday. Monday was a holiday. Christmas. Christmas was a holiday. Tuesday was the appointment. Wednesday I had to go to work. Wednesday is when I made the appointment. By Thursday, I was in to see a new doctor here in Arizona just to get some information. Now, I was hoping for her to do the ultrasound again, and I guess I didn't specify that. She didn't do one. She just sat and talked with me the whole time, answered my questions. She was like super direct and straightforward, but also like passionate, if you will. Gave me some hope. She was the one that said that, we do all this interfering when it comes to pregnancy when it's not necessary. Like the body is a remarkable thing that's going to do whatever it needs to do. Like it's self self-sufficient. And I'm like, yeah, I actually, yeah, I get that. And I have to be reminded that it is a powerful machine. She's just like, all this intervening that we do, sometimes we just have to let it alone. And so she's just like, the meds aren't going to do anything. They're not proven to do anything. They're just to make us feel better. And she's just like, your body is going to do what it wants to do. So just like, let it. And I was just like, oh, okay. In my mind, before that, I was like, oh, I thought the estrogen and the progesterone were keeping me from losing anything. Like, it keeps me from having a period. It keeps me from shedding the lining. It keeps me from losing just all these things, right? And she's just like, no, your body's going to do it regardless. And I was just like, oh, okay, I didn't know that. That's actually the opposite of the truth. The estrogen and the progesterone are in fact keeping me from shedding my lining, which is keeping me from, if, miscarriage is happening, it's keeping that from happening. So I'll get to that. But, so we talked and she like literally drew out pictures for me to understand. And I'm trying to like describe to her what I'm seeing, and I give her my ultrasounds so that she can describe and make me understand what I'm seeing. And I was like, okay. So it was a really, really good appointment. And although I wasn't any closer to an answer on like what was going on currently in my body, I felt better about just having the information, just having the knowledge. And I just walked out of there with my own hopes. I just felt so much better. And then at the same time, I also talked to my like liaison, One Fertility. I talked to a nurse there, and she pretty much said the same thing in the sense of like, you don't have to make any decisions right now. Like, it's still super early. Like, just, make sure that you raise all these questions to your doctors, and like everything is okay as it stands right now. And I was just like, okay. And in my mind, I was just like, okay, it's still super early, still really, really, really early pregnancy. And I've never been pregnant like this before, so I don't know how it goes. I don't know how it feels or what to expect. It's always different. And like, just because like I have a positive pregnancy test doesn't mean like it's gonna go boom, 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 boom. Like, I'm still a very special case because most women don't even start getting scans or doing anything until like 8 to 12 weeks. Like, nothing is going on before then. Here I am, 6 weeks, 7 weeks, 8 weeks, 9 weeks, 10 weeks, all the way through. Here I am panicking the entire way through, and nothing's really even happening yet. But it's not like I chose to do weekly ultrasounds. That's part of the program at LIC, is like they monitor you every week until you're 10 weeks. So it's been a lot of stress and anxiety and like fear week to week, because we're just trying to make sure things are going the way that they're supposed to. But that's not typical, right? None of this is typical, but so after that day, I just felt so much better. And granted, there, from that time to now, which was what, 2 weeks ago to now, 2 weeks ago to now, I've been going back and forth on, well, I'm not having really any symptoms anymore except stupid constipation and like my, I don't know, my breasts stopped being sore. My nipples stopped being sore. Like, I stopped getting car sick. Like, everything just stopped. But then off and on here now, it's like I'm still having digestive problems. That could be because of the meds. I don't know. And then like my nipples will like lightning bolt every once in a while. Like, one or the other will lightning bolt, and I'll be like, damn, what is that? Just like weird, very subtle things. Like I said, no nausea, nothing that will make me say, oh, I'm definitely pregnant. Like, I question it. Like, I go between days where like, I'm like, yeah, I'm definitely not pregnant, in the sense of like, I still don't have a pregnancy developing or growing in me. Like, I'm technically still pregnant because nothing has left my body, but you know, maybe nothing is actually happening anymore. And then I go to, there's still a possibility, it's still early. That back and forth almost daily has been tricky. So that's what I say, like I'm somewhere in limbo between having hope that I'm just having a weird experience and like in the process of accepting that the pregnancy is over. Then I decided that I wanted to at least finish my medication to 10 weeks and do that. And the medication is actually, I have enough to finish it till tomorrow. So I'll be 10 weeks on Tuesday, so I'll be a few days short. But my last dose of medication is going to be tomorrow, at which point, once I stop, you know, after you stop medication, a few days later to a week or so, you know, your period starts. Or like if I wasn't pregnant and I stopped meds, then my period starts eventually, which is also tricky for me because under normal circumstances like egg retrieval cycles, when I stopped medication, sometimes my period wouldn't come for like 2, 3, 4+ weeks. So I don't know what my body is going to do now that I am pregnant. My prayer is that I stop medication and nothing happens because my baby is still alive and growing and the placenta is giving me all the meds and hormones that I need. That is my prayer. But on the flip side, that my body is preparing to expel the pregnancy, I really hope that it happens sooner rather than later. Like I don't want to drag this out for like weeks. I'm also to the point where I'm kind of terrified of getting like an infection from having this pregnancy too long or like longer than I should have. That's like something that's been in the back of my head. In fact, there was one night this week where I actually tossed and turned because there was like that same tightness again in my abdomen that I felt over Christmas. There was that tightness again on top of like my belly just felt warm. And it was just like a really weird warmness that scared me. And I was just like really, really concerned. I didn't sleep at all that night. And then like the next night, it wasn't warm at all. Like, I'm just like, is that the sign of infection? Is something wrong? Like, I just started freaking out. But that hasn't happened again since. Recently, I have been eating a lot. Under normal circumstances, the amount that I've been eating would be considered overeating, but I'm eating a lot and not feeling like I've overeaten or I don't feel sick. Like I'm just requiring a lot of food. And so I don't know, that kind of has my stomach feeling full. But then at the same time, like I'm dealing with constipation, so like I don't know what's going on, right? I don't know what's going on, but we're about to see here. Again, hopefully sooner rather than later. Today I just made an appointment, or no, I didn't. I left a message to try and make an appointment because they won't answer the phone with that same doctor here in AZ. I decided not to go back to LIC because remember they said keep taking your meds for another week, that would be okay, and then like let's check again in a week, which would have been my 9 weeks, which would have been this past Tuesday. I did not go. I didn't want to drive 6 hours for them to tell me whatever they were going to tell me and for me to be upset, only to drive 6 hours back home and be upset again. And I'm coming out of like rest and putting stress on my body and putting stress on my emotions and putting stress on my wallet because gas costs, and just like it was right around rent time, which I'm always depressed around rent time. It's just like, no, I'm not going up there. And besides, like under normal healthy circumstances, they would graduate me at 10 weeks anyways, and I would go like switch over to my OB. So I was just like, I'm not doing it at 9 weeks. Whatever it is at 9 weeks, it'll be at 10 weeks. So, and I know that's not very good logic in this scenario. I know that, but I just didn't want to deal with them, and I didn't want to deal with the drive. So I didn't go to my 9 weeks. So I'm trying to make an appointment for 10 weeks, which would be next week, just as a last ultrasound. This ultrasound would either to confirm that the pregnancy has ended, or, and then like give me guidance on next steps and if I'll need a D&C or not, which I'm praying that I don't need one. Or confirm that the pregnancy is actually where it needs to be. Back to, I guess I didn't have that much more to say, except like some of the things that I've been experiencing thus far. So that one night, I had some warmth in my lower abdomen, some tightness, which really, really concerned me and made me freak out, thinking that I was having, or that I was getting an infection, because that's something that can happen if, like, I guess I don't really know why, other than like possibly in my circumstance, when like the pregnancy has stopped growing and needs to be expelled, that it can't be expelled, and that can cause an infection. And that makes sense because I've been taking the medication to prohibit that from happening. So I have been holding my breath and praying that nothing happens like that in the meantime. And like, I don't know, I'm just so hung up on getting through the rest of these meds, even though it's not going to take me exactly to 10 weeks, that like I just keep doing it. So like I said, I have a morning and an evening dose for tomorrow, or an evening dose for tonight, a morning and an evening dose for tomorrow, and then that's it. And then we'll just see what happens. But I'm praying that I don't need a D&C, because I really don't want to have a procedure. I really don't want to jeopardize further damage by having someone in my uterus doing whatever it is. Like, I don't want the procedure if I can avoid it. And a D&C stands for something difficult to say. Hold on, let me pull it up. The D&C stands for dilation and curettage. And according to ACOG.org, which I love that site, that's how I found my doctor. Dilation and curettage is a surgical procedure in which the cervix is opened or dilated and a thin instrument is inserted into the uterus. The instrument is used to remove tissue from the inside of the uterus, which is a curettage. I don't want that. I just want my body to like handle it. I don't want to like do that. I don't want to have to go under anesthesia. I don't want to have to do it while awake and like be present for the whole thing. Like, I just don't want any parts of it. And this is something that can be used between 4 and 12 weeks gestation. So, interesting. What happens after that? Okay. Anyways, I don't want any of this, to be honest. I don't want to have to go through, because the new doctor that I saw here, because I asked her what I could expect for like the miscarriage part, if like my body just handles it on its own naturally, and she's just like, it can be pretty painful, and Like it can last anywhere for an hour to a few hours in the day. And, you know, it's just basically like bleeding and severe cramping and then a blood clot like passing, if you will. And then after that, the bleeding will stop, but then your period will kick back into gear when your body has reset itself, like later on, whenever that is. So the bleeding only happens for like a day tops. And even when that happens, it's possible that not all of the tissue comes out of your body. And if that is the case, then you can also get sick, or you can also get an infection from all the tissue not coming out. And some of those symptoms are like fever and dizziness and pain and just all of the things, right? And so even if your body gets rid of some of the tissue, but not all, and you get sick, it's a possibility that you can still need a D&C, which sucks. So it's just like, this whole thing is like the worst. And so what I was saying earlier in the video was that the only reason I'm able to like stand up straight and like verbalize all of this is because I've been processing, working on this, crying, breaking down, going through the motions since Christmas. And it's now 2024, the first week of 2024. So, you know, I've had some time to like go through the motions and wrap my head around the realities right now. And I'm not saying that like I'm over it, because I'm definitely not. Like there's still quite a bit of difficulty to come that I'm sure I'm not prepared for. But in this moment, like I'm at that stage of acceptance where I can at least verbalize it to people. Some people, not everybody. I still want to be like left alone. I still don't feel like being social. I still don't want to talk about this all day long. I just a little bit at a time, right? So there's that. I don't want to think about anything complicated or not complicated and unnecessary. I just need simplicity because my anxiety has been pretty high.